Good afternoon, guys. What's going on? It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream on this Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. It is about 11:55 a.m. California time. The latest quake shows a 1.3 earthquake along the west coast there in California. Seeing a little bit of activity ramping up here along the Middle America Trench as well. Before we jump into the earthquake activity, going to cover Hurricane Ian, which is kind of kicking up in the Gulf right now. Let's bring up the latest satellite imagery here from the NOAA.gov website. Look at that beautiful eye feature right there in the center of that picture right there. Wow, unbelievable. It is entering into a lot warmer, favorable environment for strengthening. It is currently a Category 3 strength hurricane. It is taking more of an eastward, northeastward trend. Let's go ahead and look at the latest data here on the Hurricane Ian. Again, it looks like this was just updated an hour and 54 minutes ago. 115 mile per hour sustained winds. Again, Category 3. Pressure is dropping 28.38. Let's go ahead and check out the path of this hurricane, which we noticed last night in a couple of these models were showing a more eastward trend. And that kind of looks to be the picture today as well. Notice the path, the track here in the dotted line shows movement just south of Tampa now. It looks to be the Sarasota area right in the bullseye far as where the center of circulation will be. Now there's still a little cone of uncertainty, but that cone of uncertainty is shifting more eastward and more south of the Tampa area. So let's go ahead and check out the next few hours or so. It is supposed to strengthen into a Category 4 hurricane by tomorrow. Should have winds up there around 132 miles per hour or so. That's sustained winds. That's Wednesday at 9 a.m. Now notice that it is still way south of here, way south of the Tampa area. Let's go ahead and go towards the afternoon time frame. And Sarasota looks to be right in that bullseye shot with a Category 3 level. If you remember on my last update or so yesterday, we've seen this kicking down to a Category 1 and then making landfall, right? Category 4 for a couple days and then drops way down. But right here they're showing a Category 3 as it hits the Sarasota area. Let's go ahead and check out a little bit later on in the evening time here for Wednesday night. Notice that center of circulation there right over the area, Sarasota region. Tampa, of course, sits right up here. Not going to be out of the question to, of course, see a lot of damage and some high winds and storm surge and rain. But notice the path here has dropped tremendously to the south compared to yesterday's model. So we're starting to get a little bit of agreement now that this thing will hit south of the Tampa area as far as the strongest category goes. All right, let's go ahead and check out a little bit later on towards Wednesday night, Thursday morning, 2 a.m. or so. It moves east, and then on this model, at least on the windy model, we're still getting that center of circulation there coming into Tampa. You guys see that? Kind of backs off a little bit and turns to the north. It was making an eastward trend, and then now all of a sudden it wants to go north further. But by then, things should be dropping down in the category level far as when it does hit the Tampa area. But the Sarasota area, North Port region, looking at a Category 3 coming into this area near Venice as well. That's a pretty strong hurricane right there anywhere. So that's one model right there. Let's go ahead and check out. Let's go back here and drop this a little bit for tomorrow. And we're going to check out the GFS model here and see what these guys are saying. Okay, so Wednesday, let's go about 4 p.m. Notice this model right now, too, is somewhat in agreement with the previous model I just showed you. Far as the same track goes, right? This one here actually shows it a little bit further south, right around the Northport area. Getting the center of circulation there from Hurricane Ian as a Category 3. You guys see that? So and then it moves inland a little bit. It keeps Tampa on the northwest side of the hurricane. And then this model doesn't really show it doesn't show that northward track into Tampa. Kind of shows it going further east, and missing Tampa far as the center of circulation goes. But look at that, it kind of stalls out right there. You guys see that? That could be some bad news there as it stalls over the region. Thursday into Friday morning, and then just going to really soak the entire area of Florida as it heads towards the north. By then we'll have less wind, but there's a lot of rain coming in the next couple days, folks. And we're going to continue to monitor these different weather models, but they seem to be all in agreement far as a more southward landfall. Let's check out rain accumulation here over the next couple days or so. We're going to go next 5 days. Look at some of these models here. Over 3 feet of rain. That's going to be, notice this here in this kind of pinkish, orangish color in this region. Let me get rid of the hurricane map there. And you can see over 3 feet of rain. Holy smokes! If we had something like that here in California, that would put us out of the drought completely and probably put us underwater. 3 feet of rain? That's a GFS model. The ECMWF model shows about the same. Maybe some higher amounts in there. So Tampa, Sarasota, this entire area, if it stalls right there, they're going to get a soaking. HRR model. Let's go ahead and check out the HRR model with the hurricane here real quick. Not rain accumulation. We want the wind here. Wind gusts. Let's go back here to Tuesday right about now. HRR models are more accurate in terms of pinpointing exact locations. Tuesday night, just off the southwestern tip there of the Florida area. Let's go to Wednesday, 8 a.m. Even the HRR models here are showing a southward migration there. And even, let's see what we got here for a little bit later on in the day and Wednesday. Boy, it really jumps over there. So this one's pretty well in agreement with the others, the ECM and the GFS model, all showing south of Tampa. This model is more in agreement with the GFS model, far as it hitting around the Northport area, even just a little bit south of there, far as the center of circulation goes around looks like the Cape Coral area for landfall. So all models are in agreement that this thing will head further south. Instead of a direct hit over Tampa, but we get that stalling. Let's see if this GFS model is in agreement with the stalling. It doesn't go any further than that, just a little bit more, but it doesn't look like it stalls as much as the previous weather model was showing. But either way, these guys are going to get a good soaking and landfall as a Category 3 tomorrow, 1700 time frame. 127 mile per hour winds right around the Venice area, Northport, Inglewood area, Sarasota. These areas are going to get slammed. Of course, Tampa's going to be in there as well, but not directly bullseye hit like the other models were showing. So we'll definitely watch it. It is turning into a beast of a monster right now. It's getting a well-defined eye, Category 3. And this thing, storm surge is going to be quite high in some of these areas around Tampa and southward around Northport. So would not want to be around the coast, especially around high tide with all these waves coming in. Definitely going to be pretty nasty conditions down there as far as the potential for damage goes. But look at that. Absolutely stunning warm water headed right towards the Florida area. Best to be prepared, folks, and I'm sure many people are. Seen on the news last night, a lot of people heading out of the Tampa area, heading east inland. But in this case, you know, Florida is just going to be, no matter where you're going to be at, it's going to be a pretty big storm. Let's see what this model here is forecasting. This is from the Tropical Tidbits. I want to go down here to the southeast U.S. and we'll take a look at the GFS model here and kind of see what these guys are forecasting. Notice Florida down there on the bottom, and yep, see, look at that. Even this model right here, it looks like it was heading right up towards the Tampa area, and then it just wants to swing inland as far as the center of circulation goes. But notice the convection bands here. It's going to get a lot of rain wrapping around this northwestern side. Definitely going to be putting Tampa right there in the brunt of all that rainfall. But center of circulation just to the south there, pretty crazy. We'll definitely watch that, and of course we'll provide another update later on this evening. Looking at earthquake activity, let's make sure we got the latest update. Boy, we've been getting a lot of earthquakes out here around the northern Atlantic. 21 earthquakes, and that's just within the last 24 hours. Let's bring up the 7 days all magnitudes, because that number is probably going to jump up there a little bit, possibly double. 38 earthquakes within this range, and the largest has been a 5.8, it looks like. When was that? Yesterday? Time frame, it looks like. A couple fives in there, and quite a few fours. Now this area is it's a divergent boundary, right? Separation of the seafloor out here. It's fracture zones in the ocean floor, and that's a lot of activity for one area in a fracture zone such as this. So I'm not for sure what's going on. The depths are all consistent as far as the defaults go at 10 kilometers. Not for sure if we're getting ready for some type of eruption out here or what's going on. There's a couple seamounts out here, but I'm going to have to cover this a little bit more in detail later tonight. I'm going to look into this quite a bit more, because that's a little abnormal to see that much swarming out there in a divergent boundary such as that, the Recajanes Ridge area. Check back tonight. We'll cover that a little bit more in detail. Got busy last night and this morning, been taking care of quite a few school stuff. A lot of school lectures and whatnot was due today, but I'll pick back up on that tonight. See what's going on. Oregon, Washington, getting a line of activity up here through the Cascades at various volcanoes. Now these are just some microquakes around Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, up here around the Devil's Mountain Fault. It stretches over here to the west. All seeing a little bit of microquake activity. If we pull up to 2.5 and above, there's nothing going on up in Washington. The majority of that magnitude level has been down here south into California. Let's go ahead and pull up the all magnitudes map. See what we got here in Northern California. A little bit of activity around the southern end of the Cascadia megathrust. That one coming in yesterday afternoon time frame. And some activity out here around Shasta Lake, a little 1.7. Not a whole lot of activity Northern California wise. Some movement around the San Andreas, the San Francisco area on the San Andreas Fault. It's going to be part of the northern section here. A couple small microquakes down around Gilroy as well. Seen a 2.6 and a 2.4. That is just off the San Andreas Fault on the Sargent Fault Zone. The northwestern section kind of runs somewhat parallel with the San Andreas Fault there. Not a super long fault zone, but it's definitely, I'm sure, getting quite a bit of pressure built up there. And also on the creeping section, seeing some movement as well. The big picture, I think, right now is this little line of activity we've been watching north of the Garlock Fault shear zone. There's a couple fault systems that kind of run parallel with this shear fault as well. Of course, you got the Tehachapi Mountains, and then you get into the valley area here. San Joaquin Valley, Bakersfield area. But we're watching this little bit of movement here at the southern end of the Sierra Nevada mountains and stretching across the Tehachapi mountain areas. A little bit of cluster of quakes here going on in this area. Look real close near the Bodfish area. Bodfish. 13 earthquakes within the last 24 hours. And nothing big. Let's see what we got. We had a 3.7 and a 2.6. So some aftershock sequences going on there with that little earthquake activity. Further down south here, no major movement on the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault. We got one earthquake here. 3.3 near the Yucca Valley area. That's off the Homestead Valley Fault Zone. Excuse me. Homestead Valley Fault Zone. There's a couple different ones in here. Look at that. But it kind of looks like it's on the Homestead Valley Fault. So I want to go over here real quick and check the... let's see if I can find it here. The Caltech website, their data center, kind of gives you some info on the fault systems and whatnot in Southern Cal. Here's the Homestead Valley Fault. That's the one that we want. Looks like the last surface rupture in that area where we're seeing this earthquake activity today, that 3.3, was back in 1979, March 15th, when they had a 5.3. Slip rate is not super duper high at all. But I don't think that's a... Oh, it looks like back in the... Okay, so they did have a June 28th, 1992 M7.3, and I believe that's a pretty much a full rupture there of that fault system. And it looks like intervals between major ruptures roughly 7,000 years with this accumulated slip rate, which is very low. Probable magnitudes between 6 and 7, greater when a rupture involves multiple nearby faults, such as in 1992. So, yeah, here it talks about the 1979 event produced an offset of only 10 centimeters and should not be considered a major rupture. This 1992 one, though, is. It looks like it ruptured along most of its length during that earthquake. But either way, doesn't mean that they can't have earthquakes. I just don't think we'll see any major rupture out there on that specific fault, considering we just seen one, right? Back in 1992. Another 6,000 something years, so they say. Some movement along the San Jacinto fault zone as well. Again, the San Andreas fault, not a whole lot going on. No major swarms on it or around it for now. We have seen low activity up here in Yellowstone, kicking back up. These guys, USGS, showing about 11 earthquakes here. We're on the northwest corner of the park. Let's go ahead and check out the Yellowstone overview once again. Still don't know why it's doing that, but oh yeah, their certificate looks like it's expired. That's what it says on there. So earthquake activity. Let's see what we got. Is this today's 9/27? Yep. A little bit of microquake activity listed here on the map. Notice that quite a few little ones, and it almost looks like they're reporting all of those. Hey, good job. Not so overwhelming. There's some weird data kicking up here. This is not magma movement. It's not pulses of magma. It's not pulses in the ground. This is very consistent with some type of interference or glitch in the computer system itself that monitors this data, either in the network or in the local seismograph station network there at the park. Because it's every single, I don't know what it kind of looks like, every minute there's a blackout of data, which gives it this pulse look, which is not pulsing. But that's some type of definitely technical error there in the station, in that specific station. I just want to view it, and that's all. So, but earthquake activity, definitely a couple of them in the last hour or so. I really don't, in the last couple hours, I don't really see anything listed here on the map, and nothing really showing up far as any large quakes there around Yellowstone. You guys got to get that certificate renewed at the on that website. All right, backing out of here, Texas and Oklahoma seeing a little uptick in movement as well today. Outside of Pecos, around Guadalupe Peak, stretching over towards Midland and the Snyder area of Texas. In Oklahoma as well, we're getting a little bit of movement outside of the OKC area. Near the Bridge Creek area, it looks like. Eastern part of the country, pretty quiet. We got one earthquake outside of the New Madrid zone of 2.8 near Menard. Is that Menard or Maynard? I probably shouldn't say that right. Menard. That's probably the correct pronunciation. You know me. You guys know me and my pronunciations here. Sometimes it can go crazy. And boy, do the comments come out left and right when I mispronounce it. Which is okay, because that tells you right there. I read all the comments. And I enjoy them. All right. Puerto Rico Trench area has seen some activity as well. We're starting to fill in around the southwestern portion of Puerto Rico once again here, looking a little bit more normal, but we're getting quite a few threes in there as well after a few days of being very quiet in this little area. course, a couple trenches in between the Puerto Rico mainland itself. You got the Morotos Trough and the Puerto Rico Trench up here, kind of squeezing, almost like a consistent swarm of earthquakes up here due to the plate dynamics in that region. South America has seen some activity as well. Looks like the latest one, a 4.4, 169 kilometers into the Peru-Chile Trench of Chile. No major earthquake movement to report, though, in that area. The big island of Hawaii, we got Mauna Loa kicking up again with a swarm. No major unrest to report. The latest one shows a 1.9. This area has been seeing a little bit of swarming kicking up here over the last week. Typical movement down here around the Pahala area. Not a whole lot going on through the western Pacific. Notice that, guys. It's getting awfully quiet throughout the Philippine Plate. Most of the movement here that you see on the map looks like, well, the latest one was earlier this morning, but aside from that, these other earthquakes on the map are from yesterday. So things awfully quiet with a return, it looks like possibly of a teeter-totter effect working its way out here towards the eastern portion of the Pacific Plate. Outside of Turkey here, getting a little bit of, or actually inside the border here of Turkey, getting a 5.3 and a couple other 4s in there as well. This area is a very active zone. A lot of mountainous regions up here, and definitely does see quite a bit of movement. But gotta watch this. I mean, this is something that I haven't really seen in quite a while. This type of swarming at a in this zone. So we'll come back here and definitely double check, see what's going on. I want to see what historical data looks like in this area. I know they get earthquakes, right? But I just don't know if they get that many earthquakes in a short amount of time. They get some 5s and 6s out there, it kind of looks like. 4.5 and above as well, but it just, to me, it seems like that's a lot of activity for just a for that type of boundary and that timestamp. You know, just a time frame is just, that's a lot of earthquakes kicking up there. All right, let's see what else do we have. And of course, if you look at the entire Atlantic up here, kind of looks like we're getting ready to kick up in a big way. 5.0 down in the northern mid-Atlantic ridge, also down here 4.7 in the southern. So a whole lot of something brewing up here, and I'm going to look into that throughout the day today and provide a further update tonight with the earthquake update tonight. Let's see what we got for space weather. We did have some movement, or some activity kick up overnight. We had a G2 class storm kick up around the KP index of 6. That was unexpected, but that's what happens when you have the BZ component of the interplanetary magnetic field. There we go. It's normally not a hard word for me to spit out. Well, it carried past Earth via the solar wind, pointed towards the south, which helped boost the geomagnetic activity at higher latitude. So there we go. Surprise storm, G2 threshold. That appears to be the result of a CME passing close to Earth. So that was from a CME. I'm not for sure which one it was from, right? We haven't had any major CMEs. The coronal hole activity hasn't even really hit us yet. It is starting to line up center towards facing the Earth. But I wonder where that CME came from, right? We haven't had any major CMEs blasting towards the Earth. No major flares. Pretty crazy. All right, sunspot activity, pretty minimal, pretty stable. A couple low C flares kicking off here. 3110 looks about the same. Well, it is the same because that was yesterday's image. Here's the latest imagery here. It shows a little bit of decaying. Not my favorite word here when it comes to sunspots. I want to see uptick. I want to see these babies pop and get much bigger. But right now, to me, it only looks like maybe this one down here has a potential of any possible flaring. A couple new sunspots developing on the northeastern limb, but overall, things are kind of on the mellow side as far as any potential for major flares. They have 99 or 95% chance for a C flare, 30% chance of an M flare, 5% chance for an X flare, but I think these are a little bit on the elevated side, but that's okay. All right, guys. We'll be back a little bit later tonight, and we'll cover more on the Rick James Ridge out there. I think I've done an update on that before in the past, It's been a little while, so maybe we'll recap, refresh what goes on out there, and look at potential scenarios as to why the earthquake swarming is kicking up out there in the ocean. We'll chat you guys a little bit later tonight. Have a good one. Peace out, everyone.